Alright, so I'm finally back from being gone for about a week out of state, and I come back to the iPhone 16 Pro Max here and a couple Apple Watches ready for unboxing. So I apologize if I seem a little out of it. I just drove 20 hours into last night and running off of like 4 hours of sleep. But I'm here and we're gonna get to this because we're already a little late. So I'm sure at this point, many of you have already seen the packaging, so I'm not gonna go super in depth into this. Just kind of show you the unboxing and let you experience it with me a little bit. And I'll give you all my first thoughts, but most importantly, this will be leading into me doing more in-depth reviews, especially comparing it to the iPhone 14 Pro Max and stuff like that, because I think that might be a much more plausible upgrade than the 15 Pro Max to the 16 Pro Max. I do like this packaging. It's actually like raised right where this phone print is. That's pretty cool. I feel like I just have to mention, I mean, clearly they're showing the front of the device because the back of the device doesn't really look any different than the past couple years. All right. Here we go. So I opted for the white titanium as I do like my white technology. And yeah, that's a pretty phone. The side rails are definitely shinier than the 15 Pro Max, that's for sure. I can already see more fingerprints on them. But I mean, most people are putting a case on this, but it's a little disappointing for me as I do prefer a bit more of a matte finish on things, but we'll see how that goes. The camera button here, it does click. I don't know if you can hear that. Pretty nice click too. It's weird seeing a button right here. I heard someone mention that it looks like they actually built the 5G antenna into this button, as there's no longer a cutout for it, and it still supposedly supports millimeter wave 5G. So that is interesting. And a cable and paperwork that I'm not going to show or do anything with because no one really reads it and nobody really cares. All right, here we go with the peel. I've had more satisfying peels before. Very reflective screen. You can see the 15 Pro Max recording it right there. All right, I guess now we power it on and start setting it up. So a lot of people point out the lack of physical changes to the iPhone 16 Pro Max. I would argue it has just about as many physical changes from the 14 Pro Max to the 15 Pro Max. I mean, these last several years of iPhones have not looked dramatically different every year, not even close. Yeah, the bezels do look noticeably thinner. I mean, it is a slick looking device, I will say. And I mean, yeah, it's a bigger phone. It doesn't feel a lot bigger. Like, I honestly almost forgot that it was a bigger phone because just holding it, you wouldn't notice that. It's actually super awesome that you get an extra 0.2 inches of screen space without your phone feeling a lot bigger. All right, I'm gonna set up Face ID quick. It's pretty crazy, it just needs one scan now, unless you have an alternate look or something. You used to at least have 2 Face ID scans you had to go through. You had to go away while I make a passcode. I think I'm not gonna transfer anything, so I can just set this phone up brand new and really just try to make everything, like the home screen layout, the wallpaper, just really fit the size of this phone. All right, putting in my Apple account information. All right, it's finishing signing me into everything. So back to talking about the physical design of the phone. I am not hating on this at all. I think this is a really, really good design, and I think Apple has a look and they've kind of stuck to it, and so has a lot of other companies. The last few Samsung Ultra phones have looked very, very similar as well. I mean, maybe more rounded, maybe less rounded, more square, less square, kind of a similar thing that Apple's been doing, but it's been pretty much the same looking phone for a while now. The Pixel's got a pretty big redesign this year, but honestly, I think that's because they really needed it. All right, sorry, I had to put my secondary camera up top for a moment while I transfer my eSIM, and then we can compare the 15 Pro Max a little bit to the 16 Pro Max. All things considered, that is pretty stinking easy to switch my phone number over. That worked really, really well. I still haven't found like an incredible situation to use the action button in at this point. So right now we're going to do flashlight, but I know I want to make some kind of custom shortcut, and that will be what I leave on it. But for now, flashlight will do. Okay, here's the page introducing the camera control. Click it to open the camera app, then click it again to use camera control as a shutter. Cool. Siri.
The colors of the sky.
Yep. Not now. Okay. Welcome to iPhone. Here it is. I apologize if the camera quality is a little worse. I had to switch to my iPhone XR for the top-down view. But let me know, do you think this new 16 Pro Max really looks any bigger? Because to me, not really. Which I think is actually a really good thing. I think it's good that it doesn't feel and look too much bigger. Because honestly, it's a big enough phone and I don't really need it to be ginormous. So the lack of physical differences between these two phones doesn't bother me at all. Like I said, these rails are definitely shinier though in the 15 Pro Max. And the camera bumps look to be about the same size, but since the 16 Pro Max is a little bigger, it looks a little less huge on this phone, which is kind of cool. Again, we have the camera control button instead of the 5G millimeter wave cut out. But yeah, it is ever so slightly taller and wider than the 15 Pro Max. Yeah, and those slim bezels do look good. The internal and camera changes may be what makes this phone actually still a pretty decent upgrade for me. Now, I don't know how much better the cameras are exactly going to be, but having a 48 megapixel ultra wide, I'm sure will help those shots. In fact, it will make me more inclined to even be able to use the ultra wide camera, and macro photography will be a lot better. Yeah, this camera control button is pretty interesting. I like it and I don't at the same time. I don't know. It's not bad at all. I'm just a little worried that I'm not gonna remember to use it very often. But it's cool. I heard that they're still bringing the feature where it will act like an actual shutter button on a camera, where a half press will focus the camera and a firmer press will take the shot. But right now, that's not there. At least someone said that that was coming. Don't quote me on that yet. I will research that and let you guys know for sure. The half press is all fake. That's definitely a haptic button there. It's not like it has actually two distinct places to click. But the actual press, that is a physical button. And if you double click, you can change what setting you're messing with. Styles, tone, camera, zoom. So what is camera? Oh, so if you just want to go between the lenses. Okay, that's actually kind of a nice option. I just realized the setting I have to change. I have to add haptics back to my keyboard. It feels so weird without it, and I don't like the sound. All right, so I'm just gonna screen record this to try to show you guys what I'm talking about here. But what I just found out is something I was curious about that I didn't really hear anyone specifically mention. So let's say you are in your camera control here and you only want to go between lenses, not do the zoom function itself. Well, as long as you pick that as your setting, that is going to become your new default every single time. So if you're always changing styles, well then that can be your default. If you're always changing cameras, if you're always changing zoom, depth, exposure, any of that, whichever one of these you pick, it will default to that every single time, which is really nice. I was worried like if I was always wanting exposure, that I'd have to change that every single time to get to exposure, and that would be kind of annoying. But nope, that's not how it's going to work. Whatever you have selected, it will be what it defaults to. I'll probably keep it at zoom for at least the majority of the time, because that does seem to take advantage of it very well, but we shall see. There is something else that I'm really curious about, and that is the microphone quality from these apparently studio quality mics that they now have in the iPhone. So this is the kind of thing I'm talking about. Like, these are internal changes that could really, really enhance the actual iPhone experience for me. So this is me recording with the front-facing camera, 4K at 30 frames per second. And you're hearing the built-in iPhone microphones, nothing else. Let me try to make sure I'm not blocking them where I'm holding it. But let me know how you think this sounds, everything like that. If this sounds better than my mic, should I switch to just using the iPhone mics again? I started this channel with just using the iPhone's built-in mics, but they weren't good enough to continue using them. But let me know what you guys think. Do they sound just as good as my mic here? Do they sound even better? Obviously, I can't hear it right now, but I'll be hearing it in the editing process. So yeah, changes to the camera, changes to the microphones, those could actually affect my workflow. I kind of want my phone to be my mobile studio that I can take wherever I need it to, film whatever I need to film on it, and not have to carry a whole bunch of extra equipment. If I don't even have to carry mics when I go off site to record with this phone, that might be a literal lifesaver here. I really like that on the 15 and the 16 Pro Max, they curved the edges a little bit again, so it's way more comfortable in your hand. So if this camera and these microphones are even better, well, that might be worth it enough just for me. Obviously, I'm a little bit of a special case. I mean, I use my phone for work, for recording all the time. That's really, really important to me. I think for most people, you're not going to want to go from a 15 Pro Max to a 16 Pro Max. That would be probably so not worth it for you. But going from a 13 or a 14 to a 16, now that's what we're going to talk about. So this is what the rear cameras look like on the iPhone 16 Pro Max. Again, 4K, 30 frames per second. And I just want to quickly say, yes, this is a very similar phone to last year. Don't write it off just because of that. We're definitely going to look a little bit deeper, see if these new microphones are a good reason to upgrade, see if the new cameras are, stuff like that. I don't really care if it looks different. The phone looking different is really only for the newness feel, and that's going to wear off after a month anyway, and before you know it, it's going to feel like just the same old iPhone. So I don't really care if they make a huge effort to change how it looks year over year. I think it's got a good look to it, and their build quality is astounding as always. But we're going to look at it compared to the 14 Pro Max and the 15 Pro Max eventually as well. But I really want to see how it stacks up against the 14 Pro Max and if those users should consider upgrading this year. I'm going to have my unboxing of the new Apple Watches coming really soon here on the channel, and some more in-depth reviews of those. So if you're curious about anything with the iPhone, Apple Watches, the iPads, Remarkable tablets, Penstar tablets, Supernote tablets, all that stuff's on this channel. So much content coming. Be subscribed, comment below, and like this video if you enjoyed it. And as always, have a great rest of your day.